to which the mother always replies that the ways of Dives are mysterious and unjust, unknown to anyone but themselves. The Dive let the girl go after that, and she ran straight home, unwilling or unable to tell anyone of her encounter. She wanted to forget about the Dive's curse, to pretend it never happened. And it would be several years yet before she would have any children to worry about. In time, she did manage to forget the Dive's curse. Mostly. Years passed, and when the girl was older, she was chosen by the Shah of Otashar to be his bride and queen. She did not tell him about the Dive's curse. She barely thought of it herself. It was only when her children, twins, a boy and a girl, were born that she remembered that day in the forest. But by then, of course, it was too late, and 3 days after the birth, she discovered that the Dive had spoken true. On the morning of that third day, the wet nurse bent to pick up the daughter to feed her, but as soon as their skin touched, the nurse fell to the ground, dead. And that is why her mother always agrees to tell her daughter this story, over and over again. She doesn't want her daughter to forget how important it is to be careful always to wear her gloves, to make sure never to touch anyone. She doesn't want her daughter to be reckless, as she once was, when she was only 13 and wandered too far into the forest land. At this point, the daughter always looks down at her gloved hands and tries to remember her nurse, who died because of her. There was and there was not, she reminds herself. It's just a story. The daughter wants to crawl onto her mother's lap and lay her head against her mother's chest, but she doesn't. She never does. It's not just a story. 1. From the roof of Golvahar, Soraya could almost believe that she existed. The roof was a dangerous place, a painful luxury. Standing at the edge, she could see the garden spread out in front of the palace, lush and beautiful as always. But beyond that, beyond the gates of Golvahar, was the rest of the world, far larger than she could ever imagine. A city full of people encircled the palace. A road led south, down to the central desert, to other provinces and other cities, on and on to the very edge of Otashar. Beyond that were more kingdoms, more land, more people. From the other end of the roof, she could see the dry forest land and the dreaded Mount Arzur to the northeast. From every corner there was always more and more, mountains and deserts and seas, hills and valleys and settlements, stretching on without end. It should have made Soraya feel small or inconsequential, and sometimes it did, and she would have to retreat with teeth gritted or fists clenched. More often, though, standing alone under the open sky made her feel unbound and unburdened. From this height, everyone seemed small, not just her. But today was different. Today she was on the roof to watch the royal family's procession through the city. Today, she did not exist at all. The royal family always arrived shortly before the first day of spring, the first day of a new year. They had a different palace in a different province for each season, the better to keep an eye on the satraps who ruled the provinces on the Shah's behalf. But even though Soraya was the Shah's sister, she never moved with them. She always remained in Golvahar, the oldest of the palaces, because it was the only palace with rooms behind rooms and doors behind doors. It was the perfect place to keep something, or someone, hidden away. Soraya lived in the shadows of Golvahar, so that her family would not live in hers. From above, the procession resembled a sparkling thread of gold winding its way through the city streets. Golden litters carried the noblewomen, including Soraya's mother. Golden armor encased the dashing soldiers who rode on horseback, led by the Spabed, the Shah's most trusted general, his lined face as stern as always. Golden camels followed at the rear, carrying the many belongings of the royal family and the Bozorgan who traveled with the court. And at the head of the procession, riding under the image of the majestic green and orange